So now we move into the formal operational period, and this is now what we call hypothetical deductive reasoning, where you're able to generate hypotheses. And I don't mean in this empirical sense, but in the idea that now you're able to understand problem solving mentally. So if and then kind of statements, right? And children who have not achieved this will argue that this can't possibly happen because they're in the here and now, in the concrete operational. And again, I have a clip for this to show you what I mean. So children who move into the formal operational are able to suspend concrete world, the here and now, reality, and move beyond reality to explore possibilities, right? It doesn't have to be logical, it's just abstract thinking. So this emerges, again, in adolescence and then continues into adulthood. So again, these are evident in the formal operational stage. So deductive reasoning here is the milestone, if and then kind of statements. I'll show you the clip in a moment. I just want to go through these major milestones here. So the sensory motor period we talked about. Again, this is more about reflexes and those 6 stages. I would know them and the distinctions among those 6 for the exam. The milestone here is object permanence. And again, it's not an all or none thing. What's one of the limitations of object permanence that we talked about? What's one of the major limitations? It's called a certain kind of error. The A to B or not to B? The A, not B error, yeah. And again, that's looking in the same location, even though you see them move it to another spot. So object permanence is a milestone for sensory motor. For pre-operational, it's egocentrism, which is what? What's egocentrism? Don't be all fancy-smancy, just to get an idea, yeah. Thinking that everybody sees what you see or thinks the way you do. And again, the 3 mountains test would be a classic test of egocentrism. Conservation. Yeah? Okay, understanding that number, mass, volume remain the same despite changes in the physical appearance, right? So being able to conserve other dimensions in spite of changes in other aspects of it. And again, the idea here of concrete means that they are only dealing in the here and now with what you can actually physically see. And what marks the movement from that into formal operational is now you get away from the concrete and you can start to actually develop abstract reasoning, which is allowing, and again, any parent knows that as you get into adolescence, you start to think about moral ethics and injustices, and this is not right, and this is not fair, and they start to use all this, ability of the frontal lobes to start to engage in higher thinking on their parents, right? So it's sometimes a tool that they use as they're emerging with this advanced complex reasoning. So I'm going to show you the clip on deductive reasoning because this is kind of funny. One of the girls in here. So I think this is the one where she's older and she even looks ridiculous sitting in the little chair. She's clearly past the stage, and it's just interesting the way she answers the researchers.
It says, if you hit a glass with a hammer, the glass will break.
I knew that.
And then this one says, Dawn hit a glass with a hammer.
I knew that too.
So what happened to the glass?
It broke.
It broke. Why did it break?
Because the hammer's hard.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
No, it won't.
And this is the second rule. Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
Nothing.
Nothing happened? Why didn't anything happen?
Because the feather was soft.
First one says, if you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
Okay.
And the second one, Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
It broke.
And why did it break?
Because the rule says if you hit a glass with a feather, it'll break. So if you hit a glass with a feather, it broke.
It's like, why are you even asking me this stupid question, right? So Again, a marked change from concrete operational to formal operational. And the child, will, like I mentioned last class, I think with the third eye, when you're stuck in this particular stage, they won't even try to put the eye in, some kind of a novel, creative place. You can't have a third eye, like the guy. A feather won't break a glass. So they'll start to argue with you because, again, they're stuck in the here and the now. Possibilities are not, an issue here abstractly at all.